The classic sitcom Cheers remains a beloved part of television history for millions, a place where laughter and camaraderie seemed endless. But behind that cozy bar, was it always smiles and good cheer? From its rocky start to its eventual iconic status, Cheers faced its share of turmoil, both on and off screen. Now, years after the show concluded, secrets about complex relationships, Personaltragedies, and even simmering backstage rivalries among the cast are finally coming to light. Most notably, Kelsey Grammer has at last revealed one of his most hated co-stars. What exactly happened to turn one of television's most cherished shows into such a dramatic saga? If you value authentic storytelling, don't forget to support us by liking and subscribing to our channel. Cheers almost failed before it had a chance to succeed. When NBC introduced the sitcom in September 1982, it struggled badly in the ratings, finishing its first season ranked 77th out of 100 shows. Despite this rough start, the show offered something unique, a story set entirely inside a Boston bar, where the regulars felt like family. Its theme song promised a place where everybody knows your name. And that simple but powerful idea became the heart of the show. At the center of Cheers was Sam Malone, a charming ex-baseball player turned bartender. Played by Ted Danson, Sam was confident and flirtatious, often more interested in romance than running the bar. His opposite was Diane Chambers, played by Shelley Long, an educated and idealistic woman who found herself working as a waitress. Their complex love-hate relationship, filled with witty dialogue and emotional tension, drove much of the show's early success. The supporting cast brought extra flavor to the bar. Carla Tortelli, Rhea Perlman, was the sharp-tongued waitress with a big attitude and a big family. Coach Ernie Pantuso, Nicholas Colasanto, was the kind, slightly clueless co-bartender who acted as a father figure. Regular customers Norm Peterson, George Wendt, and Cliff Clavin, John Ratzenberger, added humor and familiarity. Norm was always greeted with a cheerful "Norm," while Cliff was known for his endless, often incorrect trivia. Although critics loved the show from the start, it took time for audiences to catch on. NBC made a rare move by keeping Cheers on the air despite its poor ratings. With time, word of mouth, and a better time slot, the show found its audience. By the mid-1980s, it had become one of NBC's biggest hits and a key part of its must-see television lineup. Over 11 seasons, Cheers earned 117 Emmy nominations and won 28, including 4 for Outstanding Comedy Series. Its blend of humor, heart, and sharp writing turned it into a beloved television classic. But as the show grew, the writers decided to introduce a new character to refresh the storylines. That temporary character would eventually reshape the series in ways no one expected, bringing new energy and new challenges to the bar where everybody knew your name. He arrived as a temporary fix, a plot device. Amidst the roaring success of Cheers, the writers needed a shake-up. Sam and Diane were on yet another break in their tumultuous relationship, and the story required a new catalyst, someone to stir the pot and add a fresh layer of romantic complication for Diane Chambers. In 1984, during the show's 3rd season, someone walked into the bar, Dr. Frasier Crane. He wasn't supposed to stay. Played by a then relatively unknown stage actor named Kelsey Grammer, Frasier was designed for a short story arc, a few episodes at most. He was everything Sam wasn't, a Harvard-educated psychiatrist, a man who spoke in elaborate, polysyllabic sentences, cherished opera, and carried an air of intellectual superiority. He was, on paper, the perfect match for Diane's refined tastes, a stark contrast to Sam's blue-collar charm. The plan was simple. Frasier would romance Diane, create some conflict, and then gracefully exit stage left. There were no long-term plans for Dr. Crane or Kelsey Grammer, but television, like life, rarely goes according to plan. What happened next caught everyone, including the producers, by surprise. From his very first appearance, Kelsey Grammer popped. It wasn't a flashy, look-at-me performance, but something far more intriguing. He imbued Frasier with a unique blend of bone-dry wit and almost endearing awkward arrogance. And, crucially, an unexpected layer of vulnerability beneath the pompous exterior. Audiences were hooked. They might not have liked Frasier initially. He was, after all, analytical to a fault and frustratingly proud. But they found him fascinating. He was unique, undeniably funny, and utterly memorable. The show's producers, savvy veterans of comedy, immediately recognized the goldmine they had stumbled upon. They saw the immense comedic potential in placing this erudite psychiatrist amidst the everyday patrons and staff of Cheers. The clashes were immediate and hilarious. Watching Frasier try to psychoanalyze Carla's cynicism or Sam's womanizing, only to be met with bewildered stares or sharp retorts, produced some of the show's most quotable and laugh-out-loud moments. He was the perfect highbrow foil for the bar's down-to-earth humor. The short-term plan was quickly abandoned. Frasier wasn't going anywhere. Over time, the character evolved dramatically. He went from being merely Diane's high society boyfriend to an integral part of the Cheers tapestry. His storylines deepened, exploring his anxieties, his deep-seated insecurities, and his desperate, often fumbling, attempts to connect with others and earn their respect. He became a full member of the bar's dysfunctional family, even if he often felt like the odd man out. Kelsey Grammer's performance was key. He gave Frasier a human depth, a pathos rarely afforded to sitcom characters of that era. Yet, as Frasier's popularity soared and his screen time increased, whispers began to circulate backstage. Not everyone, it was rumored, was thrilled with the spotlight shifting towards the newcomer. Some established actors reportedly felt their characters were being pushed aside. A quiet tension simmering beneath the on-screen camaraderie. It was the first hint that the Cheers set wasn't always the warm, welcoming place it appeared to be. Despite these undercurrents, Kelsey Grammer had achieved the seemingly impossible. He had taken a character designed for a fleeting appearance and transformed him into a television icon. It's hard, now, to even imagine Cheers without Dr. Frasier Crane. But while the character thrived under the bright studio lights, the man playing him was grappling with shadows far deeper and more dangerous than any script could capture. Frasier Crane might have been a master of the mind, but Kelsey Grammer was heading into a battle for his very soul. Frasier Crane might have been a master of the mind, but the man playing him, Kelsey Grammer, was heading into a battle for his very soul. The laughter, the accolades, the growing fame were a fragile veneer, masking a profound, almost unbearable darkness. It seemed the more successful he became, the deeper the pain cut. Long before he ever uttered a witty retort in that famous Boston bar, Grammer had endured a tragedy so horrific it would shape the rest of his life. In 1975, when Kelsey was just 20 years old and a budding actor, his younger sister, Karen Grammer, was brutally murdered. She was only 18. It was an unspeakable act, a devastating loss that left indelible scars on his young psyche. Though he rarely spoke of it during his Cheers tenure, this deep, traumatic grief never left him. It became a haunting shadow, a deep crack in his emotional foundation that, under pressure, would widen into a chasm. When he joined Cheers in 1984, the show's meteoric rise propelled him into a level of celebrity he hadn't anticipated. The paychecks grew, as did the public scrutiny. But instead of solace, Grammer found a dangerous escape. He began battling a deepening dependency on alcohol and illicit substances. What might have started as a way to cope, a method to numb the persistent ache of his past and the overwhelming pressure of the present, quickly spiraled. He later admitted that fame became a trigger. The more successful he was, the more he sought refuge in self-destruction. In an interview, He told of the first time he heard the name Frasier Crane while he was in a musical in New York.
I was doing a play in New York City, a musical called Sunday in the Park with George by Stephen Sondheim. And I was also covering another play called Hurly Burly, and talk about, 10 things that you liked or whatever. They did this with me for this character called Frasier Nye at the time. And I don't know if you remember Louis Nye.
Of course.
But I thought Frasier Nye was probably the wrong name, so they ended up making him Crane after that. But
His off-screen life began to bleed into his professional one. The polished performances audiences saw often belied a chaotic reality. There were nights he wouldn't show up for rehearsals. There were mornings he'd arrive on set, still bearing the weight of the previous night's excesses. The production team, aware of his immense talent and importance to the show, worked diligently to keep things afloat. But those close to Glamour saw the warning signs flashing with alarming frequency. He was caught in a storm, a devastating mix of unresolved grief and the relentless demands of fame, and he couldn't find a way out. Then came 1990s. It was a year that brought everything to a screeching halt. As Cheers prepared for another blockbuster season, Kelsey Grammer was arrested. The charges: driving under the influence and possession of a controlled substance. The consequence: a 30-day jail sentence. The news exploded, sending shockwaves through Hollywood and stunning fans who only saw the sophisticated Dr. Crane. It was a brutal, public wake-up call. The Cheers team could have cut ties. Instead, they responded with a remarkable Arbeitfilm, show of support. There was no public shaming. Producers and cast members rallied around him privately, offering not enablement, but compassion and a clear, unwavering message. Things had to change. There were serious conversations about professionalism, responsibility, and the urgent need for him to seek help. His future on the show, while never publicly debated, hung implicitly in the balance. The message was unmistakable: get clean, or risk losing everything. Glamour would later credit this tough love approach with helping him find some semblance of grounding, at least temporarily. But his war was far from over, and his struggles wouldn't be the only tragedy to rock the Cheers set. While Kelsey fought his demons behind closed doors, another devastating blow was about to hit the cast, one that would unfold in the public eye and leave a permanent void in the heart of the beloved bar. While Kelsey Grammer fought his demons behind closed doors, another devastating blow was about to hit the Cheers cast. And this time, it was one they couldn't keep private. Death is never easy, especially when it steals the heart of a beloved television family. Nicolas Colasanto, the actor who brought the gentle, slightly absent-minded Coach Ernie Pantuso to life, was more than just a co-worker. He was a fan favorite from day one, a father figure to many of the younger cast members, and a genuinely kind soul whose warmth radiated both on and off the screen. What many viewers didn't know was that Colasanto had been quietly battling heart disease for years. As the show entered its third season, his health was visibly declining. Yet he pushed through, determined to show up for work, for the show, for his family.
Level was not 1/10 of what it used to be, and he had even more trouble remembering lines than he ever did. But the audience still loved, right to the end. The audience loved him when he was out there.
But in early 1985, just as production was set to begin on a new episode, the fight became too much. Nicolas Colasanto passed away at the age of 61.
Woody Harrelson joined the show at the start of his fourth season after Nicolas Colasanto, the bar's beloved coach, died. This picture had sentimental value for Nicolas.
The news shattered the cast and crew. The set, usually filled with laughter and camaraderie, was plunged into grief.
Jimmy Burrows called us into his office, and the producers were there, and Jimmy was there.
And I kept saying, "Oh, please, God, don't let it be that Nicky's dead." And I even said it out loud. Jimmy walked in, and I said, "Jimmy, don't you dare tell us that Nick has died." And so he just went.
when he died, you know, it was really sad. It was very sad. We canceled the show. We didn't shoot that day.
The producers faced a difficult decision, but ultimately made the only one they felt they could. They would not recast the role of Coach. They believed, rightly, that Nicholas Colasanto was irreplaceable. Instead, Coach Ernie Pantuso was quietly and respectfully written out of the show, his passing acknowledged within the narrative, allowing the characters and the actors playing them to feel his absence in a way that felt real and earned. The bar and the show felt his loss deeply. To fill the void, later that season, a new face arrived from Hanover, Indiana, Woody Boyd, played by a then unknown actor named Woody Harrelson. Woody was everything Coach wasn't. Young, incredibly naive, a wide-eyed farm boy in the big city. His energy was different, more innocent, less world-weary. But it worked. In a conversation with Ted Danson, Woody Harrelson shared the moment he felt nervous the first time he stepped onto a film set with a live audience.
Forget the time where I'm standing off stage ready to enter the bar, and there's a red light that goes on, as Teddy knows. And so I'm just waiting for this red light, and I know that there's whatever 500 people in the audience, as well as...
Harrelson's charm and comedic timing quickly made Woody Boyd a fan favorite in his own right. And his seamless integration helped the show navigate the transition. Still, for those who had known and loved Nicholas Colasanto, the set never felt quite the same. As a quiet tribute, the producers kept a photo of the Apache warrior Geronimo, something Colasanto kept in his dressing room for good luck, hanging on the set for the remainder of the show's run, a constant, silent reminder of the heart they had lost. But the upheavals weren't over. In 1987, the show faced another seismic shift with the introduction of Kirstie Alley as Rebecca Howe, the bar's ambitious, often neurotic, and deeply insecure new manager. Rebecca was a world away from Diane Chambers, providing a fresh dynamic and new comedic avenues. Alley's arrival injected new life, and the ratings remained strong. However, outside the studio, Alley's personal life began attracting a different kind of attention, particularly her very public affiliation with the Church of Scientology. While Scientology hadn't yet reached the level of public scrutiny it would later face, Alley's open embrace of its teachings raised eyebrows in the media. Speculation began to swirl about its potential influence on her work or relationships on set. Internally, the Cheers team maintained its professionalism, and Alley, by all accounts, never brought her beliefs into the workplace. Still, it became a quiet undercurrent of media buzz, adding another layer of complexity to the behind-the-scenes narrative, especially as her fame grew and her personal life became tabloid fodder. New faces brought new energy, but they couldn't erase all the old tensions. The laughter track might have been loud, but backstage, storms were still brewing. One particular tension, involving one of the show's original stars, was about to erupt, threatening to expose the cracks beneath the polished surface. New faces brought new energy to the Cheers set, but they couldn't erase all the old tensions. One particular tension, simmering since the early days and centered around one of its brightest, most foundational stars, was about to become the stuff of Hollywood legend and, according to Kelsey, a source of significant personal strife. She was, in many ways, the soul of Cheers in its formative years. The intellectual heart balancing Sam Malone's raw charisma, but Shelley Long, the actress behind the iconic Diane Chambers, was also, allegedly, the biggest headache for its writers and, at times, her co-stars.
The two of them worked together. It just worked. So you didn't want to lose Shelley, but it was time to. It was not all pleasant what was going on there, and
because she wanted to leave.
She was tough to work with, and and then they were pushing, and she wasn't sure she wanted to stay.
Long was instrumental to the show's initial success. Diane's wit, sophistication, and her tumultuous relationship with Sam were the bedrock upon which Cheers built its empire. Yet, behind the scenes, stories began to circulate, whispers that grew into a reputation. Shelley Long was difficult. It wasn't about diva-like demands for bigger dressing rooms. It was about the work itself. Specifically the scripts. Numéro source, from writers to co-stars, have described Long as possessing an almost obsessive need to control her character, and the words she spoke. She didn't just accept the lines, she questioned them, debated them, and frequently insisted on reworking or completely rewriting scenes she felt didn't align with her vision for Diane. This wasn't an occasional note, it was a regular process note, often time-consuming. Part of the production process, Ted Danson himself spoke openly, if diplomatically, about these challenges. While always acknowledging Long's immense talent and contribution, he admitted, "It was hard for us sometimes to be in the room together, but when we started working, it was just fantastic." It was a delicate balance of on-screen magic often born from off-screen friction. Ken Levine, one of the show's key writers and producers, offered a more detailed perspective, confirming Long could be challenging and obstinate. He explained her deep passion for Diane, her desire to ensure the character was portrayed perfectly. But this passion, he admitted, could lead her to overthink something to death, making the process frustrating and exhausting for those around her, even while he maintained she had a good heart and it was never born from spite. This constant push and pull inevitably affected the atmosphere. The pressure cooker environment of a weekly sitcom, with its tight deadlines and long hours, became even more intense. Cast and crew often had to navigate Long's demands, trying to keep production on track while accommodating her meticulous procrastination, and sometimes disruptive process. When scenes were changed on the fly, it created a domino effect, forcing other actors to adjust their performances and storylines, adding another layer of stress to an already demanding job. Then, after 5 incredibly successful seasons, at the peak of the show's popularity, Shelley Long made a stunning announcement. She was leaving Cheers. Her stated reason was a desire to focus on a film career, a chance to stretch her wings beyond television. It was an understandable ambition, but it left fans reeling and the producers facing the daunting task of continuing a hit show without one of its 2 central pillars. Kirstie Alley was brought in as Rebecca Howe, a different kind of character, and the show successfully reinvented itself. During a show, another viewer asked about the conflict between Shelley Long and other actors. Rhea Perlman, who played Carla Tortelli in the sitcom, Cheers admitted that there was a bit of conflict, which led to Shelley Long leaving and Kirstie Alley taking her place.
Why not?
There were always rumors that there was so much friction between Shelley Long and the cast.
Yeah.
That had to be I mean, was that true?
There was, there was a little, but, she left and then we had Kirstie and life moved on.
Though Long's exit was officially amicable, and she would later return for guest appearances, the stories about her on-set behavior lingered, and for one actor, in particular, those interactions weren't just frustrating, they felt like a direct threat. The way Shelley Long treated Kelsey Grammer, according to him, went beyond mere creative differences. It was a clash that would fuel one of the most enduring behind-the-scenes controversies in sitcom history. For years, the stories about Shelley Long's on-set behavior were just whispers, anecdotes shared within industry circles. But when Kelsey Grammer released his memoir, So Far, he didn't just add fuel to the fire, he dropped an explosive charge. He claimed, in no uncertain terms, that Shelley Long hadn't just been difficult. She had actively tried to get his character, Dr. Fraser Crane, kicked off the show. According to Grammer's shocking account, Long felt threatened by Fraser's burgeoning popularity. she allegedly saw the attention shifting, her spotlight as the female lead diminishing, and she wanted the perceived threat removed. Glamour painted a picture of a co-star who lobbied producers to write Frasier out, but his claim went even further. Adding a layer of backstage Machiavellianism, he suggested that the producers, perhaps weary of Long's demands themselves, decided to keep Frasier on partly as a way to push back, essentially, as Glamour put it, to spite her. It was a stunning accusation, recasting his tenure not just as a professional success, but as an act of defiance against a hostile colleague. This narrative, however, wasn't allowed to stand unchallenged. Ken Levine, a respected writer and producer for both Cheers and its spin-off Frasier, offered a staunch rebuttal. Levine flatly denied that Long ever campaigned to have Glamour removed. He insisted that the decision to keep Frasier was based purely on merit, Kelsey Grammer's undeniable talent, and the overwhelmingly positive response from audiences. Frasier stayed because he worked, not because of any petty power play. Yet, Levine didn't completely exonerate Long. He acknowledged her reputation, admitting she could be difficult, obstinate, and prone to overthink something to death. But he drew a crucial distinction, arguing that her behavior, while frustrating and exhausting, stemmed from her passionate, exacting process and not from malice. Shelley has a good heart, Levine maintained, presenting a far more nuanced, if still challenging, portrait. This created a classic he said, she said scenario, a historical ambiguity that leaves fans to wonder where the exact truth lies. Was Glamour accurately recalling a hostile campaign? Or was he perhaps viewing past friction through the lens of long-held resentment? Was Levine defending a colleague, or offering a more objective view from the writer's room? The mystery deepens further when considering that Shelley Long later made several well-received guest appearances on Frasier. Was this a sign that fences had been mended? A professional nod to their shared history? Or simply actors doing their job? The answer remains tantalizingly unclear. What is clear, however, is that not all of Glamour's on-set relationships were fraught with such tension. In stark contrast to his experience with Long, he developed a deep and enduring friendship with Kirstie Alley. He spoke warmly of her radiant personality and lauded her unwavering support during his most difficult personal struggles, describing her as a vital presence who helped him feel less alone. He also maintained professional and largely positive relationships with the rest of the ensemble cast, including Ted Danson, George Wendt, and John Ratzenberger. Respecting their talents and contributing to the incredible on-screen chemistry, these interwoven relationships, the profound friendships, the professional respect, and the undeniable, lingering conflicts paint a far more complex picture than the easy camaraderie seen on screen. They show that Cheers wasn't just a set, it was a human ecosystem, a pressure cooker where extraordinary comedy was forged amidst very real human drama. So, in the end, who was the most hated star on the set of Cheers? Was it Shelley Long, with her exacting standards and alleged attempts to undermine a co-star? Was it Kelsey Grammer, battling demons that sometimes spilled onto the set? Perhaps it's the wrong question entirely. The story of Cheers isn't a simple tale of heroes and villains. It's a far more intricate tapestry woven with threads of brilliance, friction, heartbreak, and resilience. What began as a sitcom on life support, languishing at the bottom of the ratings, defied the odds to become a television legend. But that legendary status was earned within a high-pressure environment. It was a crucible of immense talent, burgeoning egos, unspeakable personal tragedies, like the loss of Nicholas Colasanto and the shadows haunting Kelsey Grammer, and unexpected, vital friendships like the bond between Glamour and Kirstie Alley. It was a cauldron where brilliance met breakdown. The tensions, like the long-simmering conflict between Glamour and Long, were undeniably real, whether rooted in professional jealousy, creative differences, or personality clashes. They added a layer of very human drama to the backstage proceedings. these conflicts were never fully resolved. Their truth likely lying somewhere in the murky space between differing perspectives and fading memories. But they don't diminish the show's legacy, they enrich it, making it more complex, more real. Isn't that just like real life? Though, sometimes, the most intense relationships leave the deepest marks. What remains truly remarkable is the unwavering ability of this ensemble cast to deliver comedic magic praxicles, week after week, year after year. Despite it all, they navigated personal grief, addiction, intense scrutiny, and internal strife. Yet when the cameras rolled, they created a world that felt warm, witty, and welcoming. They built a place viewers wanted to visit, populated by characters who felt like old friends. Think about it. How many shows achieve that level of connection? That magic, especially under such trying circumstances? The enduring legacy of Cheers isn't just about the record-breaking Emmy wins or the unforgettable punchlines. It's about the very human stories playing out both in front of and behind the camera. It's a testament to a group of imperfect people who, despite their flaws and struggles, came together to create something nearly perfect. It reminds us that behind the brightest lights and the biggest laughs, there are always stories of vulnerability, endurance, and the beautifully messy reality of human connection. So, who was your favorite Cheers character? Whose story stuck with you the most? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of TV's most iconic sets, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss the untold Hollywood secrets we uncover next. These stories, just like Cheers itself, resonate just as deeply as the iconic theme song. And that's the end of today's video. Thanks for watching. If this content resonated with you, don't forget to like, share with others who appreciate thoughtful insights, and subscribe for more compelling explorations.